recording this. Yes, I am recording this meeting. And as I say, we welcome Marlene Rose for this AACG Education and Art series. I'm having a little bit of feedback, so I don't know if we have need to mute something else at your place or not. I have a Thomas and a Marlene Rose who both look the same, so you might want to just be on one link instead of two. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Marlena, and let you talk about your work because that's what people are here to see. So take it away. You're on.
Well, thank you so much, everybody who's out there. I saw Alan Burke. I don't know if I can see anybody else who's tuned in, but whoever's out there. Oh, there I see Alan.
I see you, but I don't know why I have your name on my picture.
I don't have any idea either. You came in as a panelist for some reason as opposed to a participant. So you must have gotten the link from someone who gave you the wrong link.
Well, long story. It's a click here link from Marlena, but I'm happy I'm here.
Okay.
You could pull out the black wig.
I'm going to try to figure which one you are so I can mute you. Okay, let's see if that'll mute you.
There, yeah.
All right, fabulous.
But I like this, Alan.
Yeah, he can't talk back to you now. So
okay.
We have a lot of other participants on, but you can't hear them. If you have any questions and you are a participant, then you can use your chat box and ask us a question. So.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to answer any questions. You know, at any point, Marilee, you can stop me. I'm open to that. I think probably most of you know me, but if you don't, I'm originally from New York. I live in Florida. And I got my education in New Orleans at Tulane and Master of Fine Arts at CCA in Oakland. But I've been working since '88 doing this particular technique, sand casting. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about my work, familiarize you with what I do in case anybody out there doesn't know my work. I'm just going to show some pictures. Thomas, would you? I'm just going to kind of scroll through a bunch and quickly and just show you some of the work and then get to more of the technical side of this talk. So how do I get to those images, Thomas?
How do we show the screen, Marlene?
If you're ready to show images, then Thomas, you share the screen from your computer. Use your cursor and go down to the toolbar at the bottom and push the green share screen icon.
Okay, share screen, there we go.
And
okay.
That should take it away. There we go. Now we are almost seeing your screen. Yes, we're seeing images. Wonderful.
Nice, nice.
Now I want the actual work, Thomas, if we could get to that.
Here we go.
So one of my collectors, just as a funny little sidebar, he sent me this picture and said that he is protecting his asset.
That's great.
So I thought I'd start with the protecting of the asset, keep it light. And so I think that I'm probably most known for these Buddha pieces. Thomas, you could do the next one.
Butterflies.
Butterflies.
Oh, give us a little more time on each piece, please.
Oh, sure. Okay, so this is a body of work that I actually debuted in the 50-year celebration of the Studio Glass movement. These were inspired by my daughters who were very young at the time, and I was, aware of all things flying that they were fascinated with, insects, birds. And so this body of work, is also a very spiritual body of work that has to do with transformation and becoming a better person. And so that I really loved this concept, but the girls for sure inspired it.
And how big are those pieces? How big is each butterfly?
Okay, so the bright aqua one there is a 28-inch wide wingspan.
Okay. All right. I just needed a reference for how big they are.
Yeah, and then those small ones are about 10 inches. And a group of butterflies is called a flutter, which I thought was so lovely. So that's a flutter, just a group of different colors that I did.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. And then this is, I have abstract bodies of work. This is probably about 30 inches tall. I wanted to show a variety of pieces that are outdoors. This is in Hawaii at the Four Seasons Residences, right next to the Four Seasons Resort. Kind of a funny story. I was visiting a client doing a site-specific piece, flew in to see the space, and the person who worked for them said, "I think I've seen your work before up the road," and I didn't know where this piece ended up, you know, because when a gallery gets work, you don't necessarily know where it ends up.
Mm-hmm.
But it was literally up the road from these other clients that I was working with. So it's really nice. It was embedded in lava rock, and just a beautiful setting, unexpected. So
It's beautiful.
thank you. This is another piece just in place. I wanted to show, you know, some larger scale work. This is about 10 feet tall in Palm Beach, right on Worth Avenue. Okay, it's frozen.
There you go.
Same client. This is a fountain, and this was really a cool project because they saw my work. They saw about a 7-inch Buddha head, and they saw it, and they said, "This is our artist. We want to see if she'll make, you know, a large scale installation." I'd never done that scale. That head is probably 11 times the size of a life-size head.
Mm-hmm.
So that was super fun. It has water feature, lighting, and that was also there in Palm Beach. Closer up. Yeah, so it was pretty exciting. We had a lot of help with their lighting and construction and pool people, and so it was great to have help to install it. So I think I'm going to go back now to more of what I wanted to talk about, because I think a lot of people out there definitely are familiar with my work. And I wanted to talk a little bit about this technique because, you know, you don't often see the technique. It's based on,
Sorry.
I mean, maybe we could turn it over to this phone now and I can show my table and show me. How do I go over here?
Let's unshare Thomas's screen.
Okay.
Thomas, can you unshare your screen?
Oh,
And now, oops, there's that lovely picture of you two
a
again.
lovely picture.
And then from your device, you share your screen. So go to the taskbar where it says share screen and push that green button. There you
Share
go.
screen first. Share content.
Your
I'm
content.
seeing you right now, so you can. So we're good to go.
Oh, okay, good.
You're on the screen.
I'm on.
So, yeah.
So the technique that I use is based on an ancient bronze casting method. So the method for bronze has been around for thousands of years, actually. And it was used in glass thousands of years ago in Phoenicia, in Egypt, but very small amounts of glass were cast in this way. And then it was a lost technology that really wasn't used at all until the 70s and 80s. And from what I know, the Swedish developed it. Bertil was there around that time and educated us in America. My professor learned it in the early 80s. He heard about it being experimented with. His name is Gene Koss. He's still at Tulane University, still teaching. He's incredible. And he went to the levee and dug up some sand and started experimenting with this technique that he had heard about in Sweden. So he, started pioneering it with the levee sand. You really can use any kind of sand. I've come to find out through my daughter's science project, but that's a whole other story. But what I've been using for 30 years is ground up semi-precious stone. I'm going to flip my phone and show it to you. It's a stone. This is actually ground up peridot, but it looks kind of green. We add water and clay to it.
Where in the world do you get ground up peridot?
I get it in North Carolina.
Oh,
Actually, in a
Mountain
store in
State.
North Carolina. And so, I was basically taught this technique from my professor in New Orleans, and he gave me the basics, the sand, and a few steps. And literally, I've been doing pretty much the same thing for 30 years. And so what I want to show you is just like, you could really use a lot of different kinds of sand. And what I do is right now I'm very much into this insulating foam. It's, here's a piece of it. You get it at Home Depot. You can get it in many different kinds of thicknesses. I've used, all kinds of impressions for the sand. I've used clay, wood, stone. But what I find with this insulating foam is it's very easy to carve, much easier than wood or other things. And so, a lot of this is a little dove just to show you. So basically what we do is, you make the positive, this is the positive, and we push it into the sand. And, so it has to have moisture. It's not dry beach sand. And clay. Thomas, I'm wondering, do you think you should hold this up while I do this so I'm not one-handed? Yeah, maybe you.
Okay.
So this is just like very basic, but
We're playing in the sand.
that's what I've been doing for 30 years, pretty much. So then you take it out, and then you can't really see in there, but it's basically the negative of this.
There you go. So there you go. And then you pour the glass.
And then you basically pour the molten glass in the hole, and it's 2,000 degrees when I pour it. Sets up, and then when it cools to roughly 900, which is about the same temperature that glass blowers, it's just a little bit like 100-degree difference, I would say, with glass blowers and casters. Mine's a little bit more liquid, so a little bit hotter. And then when it cools to 900, that's roughly the same temperature as the glass blower when he's made his vase and he's putting it in the annealer, same thing. So then we take it out, of the sand, and we pick it up and we put it in the glass, say this is the glass, in the cooling oven, where it'll sit for a week, roughly, cooling back to room temperature, where a glass blower might take a couple of days to cool back from 900 to room temperature. So what I wanted to talk about in this particular talk is this negative. Often it has a lot to do with how well this positive is made, how much work I have to do in the sand to fix it. So this is a new body of work called The Talking Heads. Actually, at Habitat International exhibition coming up, you're going to see some of these. And I wanted to show you them complete, like out of the sand. So this is the glass of those foam molds that came out a week later.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. So they're kind of cool from both ways, and I present them so you can see them from both sides. So it's like this in the mold. So most of the work has this rough surface wherever the molten glass touches the sand. So these three sides will have the rough texture, the sand texture, because when it's molten, the glass is molten, it's going to remember that sand mold. But this backside, it's cooling in the air, so it goes back to the way glass wants to, which is smooth and glass-like. I've always been fascinated with ancient cultures, so a lot of the work has that inspiration. Like this body of work, this seated Buddha, this is a new body of work as well. Really wanted to get back to the classics and, you know, looking at the drapery of the robes.
Show the backside.
So this is a pretty crude mold, but I wanted to show you some of the different mold making techniques that we've explored to get more detail. Like this foam is good to some degree, you know, for getting some shapes. But if you want to get a fine detail, like in this face, we had to go a whole other route, which was using clay, using wax to really get that drapery. So we've been experimenting a lot with our stamp, the positive that we're pressing into the sand. And I wanted to walk you through another sort of newer body of work, which are these horses. I'm an equestrian, and something very passionate for me. So, you know, the shape is created with, in this case, clay. So this positive is made out of clay. So I can get more detail. Not as easy to carve this sort of a shape and get the roundness with this foam. So I went this other route. And then take this rubber, which goes over, you paint it over the clay.
And
then this plaster goes over that. There's a lot of steps in order.
take it off.
Yep.
Inside it.
This here, and then we pour the plaster in here.
There's the plaster. And this makes.
And this makes our stamp. So the reason I went that route is just because it's just much more detail, and it's not as easy to get all of that depth and detail and shape in this foam. So that's why this particular type of mold we started experimenting with. And so, yeah, so there's a variety of things here, you know, like for example, with these talking heads, you know, for example, this one, you know, I have the basic shape here, and it's going to be the opposite.
Turn around, so get the sun. Go
So-
turn the other way.
So this one is the one that I'm pressing in the opposite. And then in this case, I laid in all of these, the metal spiral, and I added my color in order to get the detail inside the head. Now, in another instance, I wanted this pattern. You know, I wanted this concept in one of the heads, very sort of geometric. And so created this insert. So once the stamp is done, this goes inside. So that's first, pressed first, taken out. And then in order to get its own unique detail, I created this. And then this is pressed in the hole as well. Does that make sense?
So you're holding the glass.
No.
You're holding
So
the mold. Is that the
the
what is-
mold.
Is the other one glass or is that a mold as well?
This is the mold as well.
Do you
Just
have the finished glass from that mold?
Not that one, but
Not that one, but this one is glass. I'm going to put it side by side and show you.
These two over here. So there's the mold over there,
This is the mold. This is the stamp.
and then there's the glass.
And then the glass one.
Now you can see how things are added to that. These little flowers are added to it, and the colors are added to it.
And you add that while it's hot and molten?
No. So basically, this one is pressed in the sand first, packed, and then it's taken out and you're left with the negative, like in the case of the dove.
Mm-hmm.
And then I work all of that detail. At this point, I would press my little flower mold. I would have made this out of the foam, the same foam.
Mm-hmm. So do you keep all those little pieces hot while to get ready to go in?
No, so all of this is done cold in the sand. So I'm going to show you this guy just to make it really simple. So say this, we're doing the head. It's not going to be
When you hold
easy.
it, I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we don't have a huge amount of sand. But yeah, most of the prep work is done in the sand. Like making the flowers, all of the detail. Okay, so you see here, he's then, let's say that he's creating the flower, even though we don't have the flower stamp. But you could use your fingers like he's doing it. You see that, how he did that?
Uh-huh.
And then like there's holes here that we have to repair because we didn't press it far enough. But this step takes so much time, hours to prepare.
But that's really, in your work, that is your final design, correct? You're not going back and doing cold work and adding things or subtracting things at the end.
No, we're hoping that at that point, where'd it go?
Yeah, now we're on that fabulous picture of you two again, wherever you are, some art fair.
Where'd it go?
I don't know.
We lost.
Oh,
here
there
we are.
you are.
Here we are. I don't know what happened.
Good.
So most of the work is in, the actual stamp, the foam stamp or whatever the positive is that we pressed in, and then working in the sand. That takes the majority of the time getting set up and getting it correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we are actually pouring into the sand, it's over pretty much. It's like that you can't really go back. And I hope that I get everything right at that hot stage. So when it comes out of the cooling oven a week later, there's minimal cold working. There's just the stand design, the metal frame that's going to hold it together. So I can now go back to Thomas's screen and show you the completed pieces and, show you, actually, I want to show you more of the process that I was talking about. I'm going to go over to Thomas.
Okay. Can you share your screen, Thomas?
Let me see if I can do this.
Look for the bar that has the...
My screen was minimized. Oh, hang on a second. Okay, here we go. At last.
Yeah, so I wanted to show you, this was actually today in the studio. This was just a little while ago. So there was our seated Buddha mold. Where did that go? Yeah. So I pressed that in the sand, took it out, and then I actually added powdered glass to the robe. see, so that detail will show up a little bit more. The color of the glass I used today was a rich red, deep red. So the face will be red, the neck will be red, the foot will be red and gold actually. And the robe will be this sort of metallic-y color. So that's that one. But yeah, that stamping and getting it all ready took hours. So here's another piece that I've done that is a Lady Buddha. And that started out as a wax face. And
because of the detail, and you wanted to have more detail.
Yep. And then I turned it into a permanent plaster mold because I loved it. And it's kind of early in our experimentation where I just took the wax and pressed it in the sand, the wax shape, but it didn't last more than one press because it's so hot in Florida. So the face sort of melted after one press. And I really liked the face and I liked what, was happening. So I turned it into a plaster, more permanent mold.
And this is your new work that's going to be at Habitat 48, is that?
Yes, this is the horse, my ancient horse. And so that is the mold that I showed you on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's taking the plaster, pressing it into the sand at the studio, and then pouring the molten glass in the hole. And then this was a week later, it came out of the sand, and I'm cleaning off the sand debris, excess that when it comes out of the cooling oven.
So how is that horse displayed on a stand?
Yeah, let me pull that up. Let me show you a finished horse. Yeah, we do in the pictures I just gave you. Just a moment.
Oh, here are the talking heads, by the way.
Oh, those are some of the heads.
Oh, cool.
With the stand. And then let's find the horse.
We can go slowly through some of these because I really, I don't want to go so fast through your work.
This missing horse, this horse that's gone missing. I don't know if you sent it.
The horse that's trotted off.
Okay. Well,
Let's spend some time just looking at some of your work because it really is fascinating.
All right, let's go.
So, so that Buddha, I'm getting sun right in my face. Okay. So that's a two-part piece. It's a head, and then there's a panel behind it, a glass panel. And that's about 25 inches high in total. And that back panel, I used to love painting. I couldn't really decide what I wanted to study. I knew I was going to get a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I love painting and sculpting. But the thing that I really knew is that I did not want to do glass at Tulane. I stayed away from the glass department.
I think
perfecting the craft skill. So anyway, the reason I bring this.
We are losing some audio from you, Marlene, right now. I'm pretty certain.
I'm working in the sand. I'm almost painting with the color because the color there is powdered glass that I'm sprinkling directly on the sand after I press the stamp. When I take it out, then I add the powdered glass directly on the sand. And like you say, that's my moment that's my canvas. That's, when I'm creating the actual piece is in the sand.
So this Buddha head that we're looking at right now, that is the head and what you see behind it is all done in a mold in the glass?
It's two separate pieces of glass.
Okay.
Yeah, so the head is done at one point, and then the back panel is done at a different point. But I knew that I was going to put the two of those pieces together as one piece. Just because the head is so thick, I couldn't do it as one piece of glass because of the depth. It would crack. So I have it as two separate pieces.
Okay, and how big is that piece?
So that piece in total is about 25 inches tall,
Okay.
20 inches wide, 8 inches deep. And I think that I'm, known for that, I would say. So here's some more of the butterflies. You can see the 3 tall pieces that I'm standing next to.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's in a museum in Greenwich, Connecticut. Actual private museum called the Seven Bridges Foundation. And he has a wonderful glass collection, but also just a fine art collection of amazing, amazing art. But he has about 8 or 9 of my pieces. It's a really cool museum. You can go and see it. You just have to make an appointment. And then these bells are, this was the color glass I was using today, the red glass I was telling you about.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's from the Czech Republic. It's got real gold in it. And it varies quite a bit. Sometimes you'll see the gold come out in thinner areas. If it's a thick, dense piece, you might not see any of the gold. But on these little dowels that come out, you don't see it right now. But since they're thinner and from the side, you'll see the gold coming out, which is really exciting. This was a wall-mounted self-lit installation. So it has lighting behind every piece, every head.
And is that in the museum as well?
No, this is just somebody's home. And I just thought it was a really beautiful presentation of the piece. I loved it.
I like its company too.
Me too. So these are some fairly new work that I've done in the last few years. These kimonos, they're roughly about 6 feet tall. They're not life-size, they're kimonos, because I was just starting with the idea, but I presented them in a way where they look life-size, but they're actually not. They were featured at SOFA about 2 years ago and acquired one of them was acquired by Imagine Museum in St. Petersburg. I only made 3. The other 2 are in just private collections.
They're beautiful. I remember those very distinctly.
Thank you. Yeah, Habitat showed them right in the front entrance
Yeah.
a couple years ago. That was so cool. And then this hand is about giving back. I feel like, in my 20s, it was all about me and figuring it all out and figuring life out. And then, you meet your spouse and you have some kids and, it's all about them. And, recently I've gotten involved in some charities and, I think in the end, it's kind of who you've helped. And so I'm thinking about that concept of helping others.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that? Yeah, giving back. Right. And I'd love to go back to the pictures, Thomas, and show this this commission I just did for somebody. And all of the things that are in the hand were very personal to that collector. How do we go back to like the slides, all the slides? I mean, I can do that. I just want to go to I can see all the signs. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
So this was really fun. This collector they love collecting old cars. So on the top left there is a wheel. Wanted some aspect of the car. So he loved this wheel shape of the Chevy, old Chevy. So that on the top left is a piece icon, and then the circles there represent their grandchildren, and each color that's in the within the circle is the birthstone of that grandchild, which I loved.
I think your audio is going in and out because we just have a silent time again with you. I'm not certain what the issue is, and I'm hoping that you come back because we have lost your voice. And hopefully you can hear me. I'm thinking that given the time of day it is, everyone in the world is on Zoom right now. And we're having bandwidth issues. So I cannot hear you, Marlene. So while I can't hear you, what I am going to do is I'm going to stop your screen sharing for a moment, and I'm going to bring mine up if I can. And this is, I believe you're.
Oh my God, I've been talking all that time and you didn't know.
Yeah, I just took the screen away from you. I just took the screen away from you. And because I was going to show your website. So because I lost you and I lost all of your, we can hear you speaking now. So I can hear you, but I'm showing your website and screen because I wanted to keep this moving while we had the issues. Marlena, I can hear you talking. So let me see if I can bring up this video again.
We need Coco.
Okay. Whoops. I'm gonna mute you for a second because I can hear you, and I'm going to see if I can show this video.
Can you hear me now?
I can, but I have a video on. Have your video. I'm showing your video.
Oh, she's really quiet. I can hear her. Dada, how do you go to the bottom? The bottom's usually here. I think we need to log out for a second.
Need to leave the meeting?
No.
Record on my phone?
I have no idea. No, we can't because you're not in the meeting.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, and I'm showing a video, and I don't want you to talk.
Okay.
Okay.
studio. Why don't you want me? You know, it was hard having the door shut in your face. No, you know, maybe it's just too hard. Maybe it's just too hard.
But she never gave up trying. And finally, this studio, near her home in Clearwater, Florida, rented. And so, for the last 20 years, she's been turning out her signature pieces. Buddha hands, for one. Butterflies, another. African pieces, too, are a favorite. She's in more than a dozen galleries. And her work was recently a featured exhibit at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art in Indiana, which all made the mold that she poured for us all the more special. Our Sunday morning sun. She first crafts it in styrofoam, gluing it together with the help of her 2 kids and her husband, Tom. Once built, the piece is pressed face down into that wet sand. It's then pounded and packed, and when it's gently lifted back out, what's left in the sand is the memory of even the tiniest detail. Almost pretty well. Yeah. The excess sand is then vacuumed away, and a golden layer of powdered glass, in this case, is sprinkled into that mold. What comes next starts the clock ticking on a process where there is no room for error.
I just love how it's this dance amongst all of us, and there's danger and excitement, and who knows how it's going to turn out. That to me is thrilling.
That dance starts as soon as the glass is at the right temperature to be cool. It starts cooling almost as soon as it hits the air, which is why, almost immediately, Marlene starts blasting it with a blowtorch, and it could all go south in a second. And if it cools too fast, the whole thing cracks and you're done.
The whole thing cracks.
Bit by bit, the sand is carefully removed, readying it to be transferred to the cooling oven. But bringing down the temperature slowly is so critical. Marlene even lights Thomas's gloves on fire
To warm you up.
to make sure they're hot enough not to traumatize the glass. How did you get roped into helping out? There you go. The result is always a surprise. This one, for example, was supposed to be all red glass, and yet gold mysteriously bubbled to the surface as it cooled. What did you think when it came out?
I jumped up and down.
Pretty good.
You just never know.
And when it came to our son, neither did we. What do you want people to take away for it? You want them to experience?
I want them to feel something. I want them to look at it and feel it. And if they feel something,
And with the sun finally streaming through our own little earthly storm, feel.
All right. Okay. Now I have to I've got to somehow unmute you because I can't hear you. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Now, let's see if we can hear you now.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, we can. Let me get you
I
down.
guess you didn't hear anything I said about that hand commission.
No, I did not. Unfortunately, we lost all sound completely. So,
So shall I go back to that, or do you want to open it up for questions, or?
you know, I showed the video, which I thought was wonderful. And someone said there was no audio with the video when I was playing, so I apologize for that. I thought there was. So we're having obviously technical issues. So yeah, go back because I can see you and hear you now. So
Okay. Coco, how do I go back to the?
if you want to show the pictures, you have to be on Thomas's computer and share the screen.
Okay. How do I go back to my pictures? Oh, here it is. Like that. Okay.
There.
Yeah, so what I was saying is it's such a fun collaboration, this commission, because we put all kinds of fun personal items for the collector. On the left is a wheel from a antique car that they collect antique cars. It's from Chevy. It's the wheel, and I abstracted it.
We did hear that. We heard that in the birthstone of the children. So
Okay, good. And then below that, they love to travel. So that's a half round dome that comes off the surface of the hand. And the spirals I put in the dome to represent that they have crisscrossed the globe. They love travel. Their initials of their last names are to the left, bottom left, the two Ks. The wife is an avid mahjong fan, and that's her favorite Asian symbol. To the right is an infinity sign made of metal that I embedded there. And we did the cross there, which is their religious, and I polished that clear to make it a little bit sparkly and different. So that was a super fun collaboration to work together on that. It's called the Family Hand. So that is that. And then, do you want me to answer any questions?
I don't have any questions up right now. No one has asked questions. So, you know, I think we have seen a good example of your work. And I think in the video, which was on CBS Morning, is that right? And had how many millions of viewers?
7 million.
Lots and lots of viewers, so a bunch.
Yeah, no, it's been fantastic to expose that many people to the studio glass movement.
Here's a question. It's Mina. She says, do you reuse your sand?
Oh, that's a great question. So the sand that I'm using has pretty much been the same sand for 20 years. I just replenish it as it falls on the floor. We'll, add a bit every year, but it's the same sand over and over. We just basically add water to it. It just needs to be dampened, and we add a little bit of clay also to this sand so that it'll retain the memory of what you press into it. But pretty much it's been the same sand the whole time, which is so cool. So it's completely recyclable. Even the stuff that is actually on the glass that comes off after it comes out of the cooling oven, we're super dry, just throw it back in the box and re-wet it, and we reuse it again.
Yeah. Well, Marlene, thank you so much for taking us on a tour tonight, for showing us your processes and some of your artwork, and your wonderful family. And Coco's a great technician, so thanks to her.
Thank goodness for her. I just wanted to quickly tell you before we end that story that I started to tell you about. So, I learned the technique. I learned that you're supposed to use this olivine sand, and it's special, and it's stone, and I had the theories of why that's what you use, because it's stone and glass is sand, and maybe it would stick together if you use sand. Anyway, so my little 12-year-old at the time had a science project, and that's her, and she did an experiment on if that is the best sand to use. So what she did is she went to Home Depot, she got builder sand, she ground up some shells, she got beach sand, what else? Pool filter sand, a whole bunch of random sands, and so she did a little stamp. I showed her the insulating foam, she made a little carving, and yeah, you could get it. And so she did an experiment, and she didn't know what was what in the end. So she had no preconceived ideas of what would be the best sand, and the sand that I use. And funnily enough, the sand that she thought held the best detail, it was the crispest, the best was not the sand that I use. She found that the cheap Home Depot builder sand was the best sand to use.
So
So here's her little stamp that she made herself.
So all of the shapes have a certain reason that I put them there. This is to test like high walls, if they would stick inside. This is to test fine detail. This is curved edges and sharp points, curved edges, fine detail, and then I put a C just for fun.
Just for Coco.
Yeah.
Oh, and she's got the glass.
Yeah, and we made a piece of glass for each piece of sand.
Oh, how cool.
And so this, I believe, this was I think this was the olivine sand. No. Let me look. But each one of them came out differently, and I actually found out a whole bunch of new things. Like this one came out really, really polished and really smooth. And it was actually because I added too much water accidentally. And my parents, they were looking for that certain texture. They got it many years ago and they didn't know how they got it. And it turned out it was because there's too much water they accidentally added.
This was something that happened to us. We didn't know why it happened once. It was like the front of the face, which I made an African face, and they all have the sand texture. This one day, it was almost like crystal. And I was like, how could that be? It never turns out smooth and glass-like.
Mm-hmm.
And we figured out because usually if the sand is too wet, it'll cause the glass to bubble.
Yeah, and
in
this
the
one
mold.
bubbled as well.
And it ruins the mold, so I throw it away.
I don't know if you can see right there. There's a whole bubble.
Right, yeah.
So we never took it further because we just threw it away because we thought the mold was completely ruined. But anyway, just to tell you that she found, you get in a rut of doing something that worked for 30 years, thinking that that's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
And then, she found that the builder sand, she liked the detail better than the olivine. So.
Yeah, this was the olivine sand that they use all the time. And this is the builder sand. So
Goodness.
you
can see the difference completely.
Yeah.
It's a crisper, finer impression.
Yeah, it is.
I guess you might like the sort of, I don't know, rustic, is that the word?
It's a personal preference,
yeah,
I think.
personal preference. Where
Yeah.
if you were supposed to make something really, really detailed, you would go for this one. And I'm going to start experimenting further with the sorts of different clays now. And I'm gonna, because I only did the sand, I did the same clay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that they use all the time.
Yeah.
Bentonite clay.
Yeah, thank you.
No.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. We were getting ready to end the webinar, which I'm going to do. So
Okay.
thank you so very much.
And I won first place.
Oh, right. Congratulations. That's good.
Just putting that out there.
Thank you so much for allowing us into your home and for sharing your process with us tonight. This has been delightful. Thank you, Marlene and Thomas.
Thank you, Marilee, for thinking of us. And I hope that if anybody has any questions, you can feel free to email me. Go on my, website. I love interaction with people, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Fabulous. Will do. Thank you so much. You stay safe and have a nice evening.
Okay. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye.